Good morning, everybody. It's very good to be here, and I hope I can share some of my story with you too, as a global leader. I'm going to start with my own story, of course. I was born in Salvador, Bahia, a city in the northeastern part of Brazil, a wonderful city surrounded by the ocean on one side and a bay on the other side. It's the first capital, it's a historical city, and it's a very loving place to be. I was born in a family that didn't have any never had any economic problems or financial, and I feel very fortunate for that because I had nothing to do with it. I was just born there. And my parents were very open, we grew up in a very outspoken family and very active in society and towards the community issues. So since I was very little, I was very much aware that I was a privileged person. And there was a lot of inequity in my country. Brazil is a huge country, beautiful country, very rich country, but very unequal, very unjust. We have a lot of people who can't get a hold of any of the cultural benefits of living in this place. And I was aware of that. My family made me aware of that. We knew this in the house, and we talked about it. And my parents were active in things that could change society. And so that's where I grew up. And lots of books, lots of ideas, sharing with writers, artists, painters. And this made me think about that I had to do something, that I was obliged to do something to change things in the place I live. So when I was a young student, high school student, we had a coup d'etat and a military dictatorship. And my parents were very upset and worried about it. And I just had to be in the student movement. So I did all the manifestations. I was in the student councils. And I ran from the police. I ran from the dogs. I never went underground. And I think that was part of the wisdom of my parents. They didn't say anything, but I didn't go as far as some of my friends did, but I still was very active in politics. And well, after a while, I went to college and I decided to study education because I thought that pedagogy could give me this idea of changing. I only thought that education could be a change tool. And I was very much inspired by two great Brazilian educators. One, I think, is probably known by many of you, Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire he believed that education is a tool for change, for liberation, for achieving consciousness. And his ideas were very strong and very widespread, and he was a very inspiring person. And also another one that's probably is not as well known as him for you, but very well known in Brazil. He's called Anísio Teixeira. They're both dead now. And Anísio Teixeira wrote many books, and he was a municipal education officer. And his idea is that education is not a privilege. Everybody has the right to be educated. And everybody should have access to good quality education. So those were the two inspiring leaders I had during my college education. Well, I got married early, as usually at that time, and I married a wonderful man, a medical doctor, and he was a little older than I was. No, same age difference up to now. I didn't get any older, and he didn't get any younger, but anyway, he was 9 years older than I am, and when I was finishing college, he got a scholarship to come to Boston for research fellowship at Mass General, the hospital attached to Harvard. And we had a baby. I was finishing college. We already had one baby boy. And yes, let's go. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just finishing my college education. And I came to the States and I, applied for some colleges in Boston area. Of course, I had this idea that I wanted to go to Harvard. I never thought I could, but I applied for it. And wow, I got accepted. So I was there with my husband working hard, and I was in this college, Harvard. At that time, the rate was 1 woman for 4 men, and with a baby boy. So I decided to focus on early childhood education. I had nobody to talk about my baby, and I had to take care of him and study. So I said, I'll go into early education. And I took many courses. And I felt very privileged because I was with Brunner, Burton White, Sheldon White, Courtney Kasdan, brilliant minds that also inspired me a lot on working for education for all and liberating people. So my beliefs that I built from all this beginning was justice, equity, rights. Children are strong, children are capable, and they're the most important human project. Everything we do, it would be to make children develop well. So I came back to Brazil, and we moved to Brasilia to work, and my husband was invited to work in a government placement, and I applied for the university. I was teaching at the university in Brazil, and then I worked at the Ministry of Education. They asked me to work as child development program. And then my eyes opened for, national policy. We could do so much when you're in government and when you have beliefs and when you want to do things. And this was really an opening of my mind and feeling the power of being able to do things. We lived in Brasilia for 10 years, and we did a lot. By that time, I had 5 children. So we came back to Bahia, and I decided I should work in the municipal level, because that's where things really happen. That's where children grow, that's where they get sick, that's where they develop, that's where they go to school. So I decided to work with the municipal education office, and it was a wonderful experience. It probably was the most rewarding experience I had in really doing things to change kids' lives. And after that, I decided that I had enough of public government and teaching and all that, and I wanted to work with people who had the same strong beliefs and could do a lot of things together. So we founded an NGO. It's 20 years now, and we work mainly with educational processes for children, teachers, people that work with children's rights. And it's a small organization, but it's a daring one. And we think high, we think big, and I think we can do a lot. And we joined the National Alliance for Early Childhood Education and Care in Brazil, which is a very strong alliance. We have 200 organizations. Tomorrow we'll talk about that in a session. And working at the National Alliance has been a wonderful thing. We were elected for the executive board on 2010 and 11. We served as the national secretary. And then we are in the executive board up to today. And the National Alliance has really made a difference in public policies in Brazil, helping to bring up subjects and to see children as a whole. So what I say, what's necessary to be a leader, a global leader, and I was very happy to be part of the Global Leader Program, and it really enhanced my view. It even enlarged my perspectives, and just to know so many wonderful people that are doing the same thing all over the world. When things are not so good at home, then I feel strong because I have so many friends. But I think you have to have knowledge, you have to have experience, you have to have passion, you have to search for partners, and you have to be open to negotiate. and you have to be flexible enough, but you have to know how far can you go in your flexibility, not to lose your standards. And so I think that's what makes me work for Global Leaders. It's because I want to make a difference. I want to change lives of children, and I want to build relationships that are strong and enduring. Thank you.